Let's see. Here, hold up. We gotta take it out. We have to take it out. How do you take it out of this thing? Okay. We gotta adjust it. Stop. Put this over here. Don't really like do it down that far. No. Oh, that's why.
As long as it leans.
No, the Velcro piece for the. Yeah, where did the video go? I'm trying to hit it, but it's not going back. Alright, we're gonna pull this back over. Oh, we got it in. But I gotta get the video correct.
The past haunts us all. Whether it be a person, place, or thing, we are reluctant to let go. We call to the dead out of desperation and intrigue, searching for answers about what lies behind the shadows. We are paranormal researchers. We are Necromancers. Hello, and welcome to the Necromancer Live Show. I am your host, Justin Brown, and this is episode 25 with Post, New Jersey. This is going to be a special show, guys. I have always wanted to interview a young group, an upcoming group. So what we have today is a group of teens that legitimately research the paranormal and investigate the paranormal, and or under the oversight of adults, of course. And this is a very unique, setup to where you have, a legitimate operation organization bringing young people up and teaching them how to do it the right way. So, without going on too much more, we're going to bring them in and we're going to get to know these folks. What's up, Post New Jersey? What's going on tonight, guys? All right, so I see you got the Christmas tree in the background. You're looking festive. How was Christmas? All right. Here, let me turn your guys' audio on. Oops, I thought I clicked that. All right, now we can hear you. Okay. Well, I got a bunch of questions for you. I hope you're willing to share the answers between the seven of you guys. So it shouldn't be too bad. If we do that, we probably won't be talking over each other quite so much. So I have to ask, is there a lead investigator for your teen group?
We kind of have two leaders, which is me and Mark.
So what's your name?
I'm Brianna.
And my name is Mark.
Brianna and Mark. Okay. Brianna and Mark, let's start with you. You guys can decide who answers these first few questions. What started this teen group? What got it sparked? Who inspired it, and who keeps it running and going?
My name is Courtney, so I'll ask the question, answer the question. So back in 2011, I was a freshman in high school, and, some kids around the lunch table were talking about a paranormal group and how they were teens, and, it started off pretty much from that point on, and I asked, why did you start a teen group? And they said, well, it's all scientific based, it's not just we go out and have fun, you always learn when you go out, and so yeah, we've been a part of it for quite some time now, and yeah, it's pretty exciting.
So how long ago did this start?
Since 2011.
2011. So you're going on 7 years now. That's a pretty long stretch. Have all of you guys been at it for that long, or have you had new members added along the way?
So Post and Jay was not original. It was a different group before this. Mm-hmm. So we kind of, when we did Post and Jay, it was a different group at first, and then we kind of came back. So now there's a few members that are still the same, but most of them are changed.
Awesome. So, are all of you believers in the paranormal? Have you all had experiences of your own, or is there any skeptics?
Honestly, I feel like I'm the biggest skeptic probably out of them. I'm actually one of the adult advisors. I'm not actually, but I don't exactly not believe. I just don't have, I guess, evidence, hard facts kind of thing. I'm always looking for that one thing that just kind of jumps out at me. But that's kind of why I joined. I just kind of wanted to see if I couldn't investigate more into paranormal activity.
That's a good point and a good stance to have. What would be considered a hard fact or something tangible or something physical as far as evidence is concerned?
Well, I guess that's a good question in of itself, because what do you even consider a hard fact? I guess, in my opinion, what I would consider a hard fact is something I can see and distinctly show, almost I can just basically see it, or I can feel it myself. Right. And I actually had any experiences like that beforehand, so I can't actually say that I have any evidence, or I've not felt it, I haven't seen it. So I guess that's what makes me just a skeptic. I just haven't been, touched, per se.
I understand, and that is the conundrum. That is probably the top reason why people are skeptical and it's not a widely believed phenomena, is because why believe something when you have not experienced something or have zero experience of such things? And that seems like it's an increasing way of perceiving reality, which is a good thing because, you know, uh-oh, I kind of lost your video feed there for a second.
Yeah, the low battery thing came up.
Uh-oh,
Yeah.
that could be a problem.
Yeah.
Charger?
It should be charging.
The portable charger is on, but I don't know why it's not holding charge.
Press the screen and show you the charging.
I can see you guys now.
Charging.
It's saying it's charging now.
It's not charging as fast.
It's
Uh-oh.
blinking, so that means.
Yeah, that was something I was not wanting to run into because the mobile devices they can drain quite quickly. So we'll see if it holds.
Well, if you want, I'll go get a brick. I know you have a charger, don't you, inside your room?
By the chair.
Yeah, we got to charge for it, make it easier.
I have no idea what happened. It was fully charged.
It's okay. It happens.
Yeah, it's probably the whole time we put set it up.
Don't worry, I got this.
Yeah, where are you going to put it?
This one right there. Oh, behind my head for a second.
There's nothing like geeks to the rescue.
Yeah.
I have to deal with a perpetual amount of technical issues all the time, and if you're not able to do so, you're going to have a lot of problem in this field, or anything involving the internet like this.
Let me unplug this. I'll plug this in real quick. And then it's charging, cool.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very sorry about that.
There you go.
That's okay.
I had no idea that was
There's nothing at stake here, and just so you guys know, we're getting a lot of comments in chat, and I do this. This is a one-man band here, so if you guys really want me to see your comment on YouTube and you want me to ask these folks some questions, super chat is the best way. Even if you only do $1, it'll pop up on screen, and I will see it very easily because I'm getting flooded right now, which is a good thing. So, like we were saying, if you don't see it, why believe it? And that's a very good position. So that's the problem we face, and that's why we investigate, because we're trying to find ways to provide evidence of such things to people who don't have any. Would you guys agree with that? Is that what you try to do?
Yes.
Yes.
So let's talk about how you guys do that. What is the basic methodology of gathering data to, either support hypotheses about the paranormal or to provide some type of evidence for the paranormal?
Well, so we use the scientific method. Whenever we go out to do a research project, that's what we go by. And before you get into a location, you look up the background of the place, and then of course we have a bunch of different equipment that we use as well. So a lot of the equipment is used for rolling things in and then rolling things out.
Right.
And a big part of it sometimes is the actual environment that you're in as well.
Yeah.
Because before you can jump to paranormal things, you have to look at the area you were in.
Right.
And maybe the equipment could be, again, the skeptic talking. But I don't always just jump to the paranormal immediately.
Well, that's good because, as you guys probably know, and most people who do this sort of thing know, if you're using the scientific method, first thing you do is try to control variables. And you'll have independent variables, you'll have, dependent variables, and you have a control. So the lab environment is the toughest thing because you're dealing with things that are sort of out of your control for the most part. Ambient sounds, the environment, traffic, wildlife, nature, even yourselves can produce a lot of problems when you're moving around, talking, so on and so forth. So we could get into a lot of questions about what you do to try to, deal with those things, but let's just try to streamline it and condense it as much as possible. What is your protocols? Do you go by strict lists? Are you super organized? What is your main operational tactic when it comes to, let's just say, a building?
Well, when I first go in, I'm part of safety. When I first go in, I check combustible gas, oxygen, CO, like carbon dioxide, carbon monoxide, a bunch of different type of variables, because we don't want to go into a place that is unsafe before we go in and do our investigation. So I pretty much just go around and check everything and make sure everything checks out correctly before I send the team in to do our actual investigation.
That's a very good idea. Safety is very important. Every group should have a safety officer.
So since Mark is the safety officer, we also have Brett, which was our skeptic member over here. He's the incident commander. So he's the incident commander, and then part of that is the incident command. So, you know, he's in charge of, so we have a whiteboard and he writes down, you know, so let's say we have 6 teams. So, you know, we'll write down team 1 is Courtney and Brianna, and then he writes down what pieces of equipment were brought out. And, you know, that's basically how he keeps in track of where everyone is and what equipment was brought out, just in case something got mixed up and in case someone got lost. So he's also second most important.
A lot of times what ends up happening is we have radios and stuff like that, and I keep in communication with all the teams at all points in times.
Yes.
And a lot of times before I even throw a team out, I will write on the whiteboard the hot spots, quote unquote, inside of the location, building, wherever we're at. And I will designate specific teams to go to those specific areas. And that's usually just how it goes down. We usually do one team at a time just to keep it simple, because a lot of times if you send too many people out at once, it starts getting hectic. You hear people from other teams, and it starts messing with that so-called environment that we were talking about earlier. And it makes for a bad, I guess, research project.
Exactly. And you guys got a pretty good size group, so that is definitely a concern. And you got about the same size group I do, so we run into that all the time. Now, when it comes to having a field to research, what types of investigations are you able to do? Do you go to places that are free? Do people call you in as a client-based case? What kind of field do you guys research?
Well, we have a little bit of everything in that mix. We go to places like cemeteries to train, and then when it comes down to it, we also have some people that either contact us or we contact them, and we'll go to them. And we'll go to them. One of the most recent places was a church, which was in Pennsylvania. And yeah.
So do you do anything that costs money? How do you fund those things if they do cost money? I do notice that you guys do events and stuff. Do you have anything that can generate you guys revenue at all? Or are you just strictly nonprofit? Don't get anything back for what you do? Kind of explain that a little bit.
Yeah, we're not.
We're strictly a nonprofit. Everything we do is usually free, or we get offered or invited from people we know, or we've done cemeteries before and we've been invited back.
And a lot
So we
of
have
times,
permission from them.
and a lot of times the other adult advisors, they pitch in with their cars or their free time and stuff like that. And we put them all together and we load up the truck and we just get off and get to our next place. That's more or less what we do.
That's awesome. So, what types of things are you looking for? I know people want to see things and hear things, but do you do any type of specified research like voice phenomena or anything like that?
Yeah, we do a lot of EVP sessions to see if we can get them pretty much talking back, or any noises or sounds besides the background environment. Noises like anything that the human ear can't hear. We try to use the voice recorders to pretty much talk and see if we get any feedback from the outside environment.
Right. So do you guys, what's the most frequent or the most common thing you guys run into? Something that doesn't react to stimuli or what you put out there as far as questions, or is it just kind of does its own thing, what they would say, quote unquote, residual? What's the most common thing that you guys think you encounter?
Most common thing? That's a good question.
That's a really good question.
You're episode 25, guys.
Yeah, I've been on that. I've never been safe. We try, when we're out in the field, we have cameras set up, IR cameras and lights set up everywhere where we go. So the whole time it's recorded. Then we have our thermal imaging camera Then we have our EVP sessions. We bring out a bunch of various equipment to be used. We're looking for vibrations, see if we can hear anything. We're looking on thermal imager, see if anything's moving out of the eye, if there's any random heat signatures besides us. We're using a night vision camera, see if we can get any like shadows or anything like that. So I mean, when we go out there, we're pretty much looking for various different types of evidence, but I would say most important when we're going out, we're looking for like the EVPs. And then besides that, the thermal imaging, see if we can get anything to move while we're stationary.
Right. It seems to be a universal belief that the voice phenomena, whether it be disembodied or electronic, is the most prevalent anomalous phenomena that people experience and are able to capture. Would you agree with that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. With that being said, I spend a lot of my time trying to figure out what's anomalous and what's not and how to prove that. So, do you guys do anything unique or specific on how to actually prove if the audio that you record is in fact anomalous?
So, well, first we will figure out like whose session it is and make sure that they're listening to it and make sure they know what environment they were in. If maybe someone was whispering, someone moved and they didn't say anything.
Mm-hmm.
So we rule that out first, and then we have our tech guy, and he puts it into his computer into like a certain app. I'm not exactly sure what it's called. Sonogram. And it pretty much depicts like our sound from like the outside.
Background sounds.
It basically shows the wavelengths of all the sound.
Yeah.
And when we hear something that may be an EVP and it's not on, doesn't have its own wavelength, that doesn't have a sound like or a wave, then that's when we say it's most likely possibly paranormal.
Right. So some people believe that it's embedded in the white noise of the recording device or in the ambient noise when there's nothing going on, and that's where a lot of that occurs. And I find that to be true in some cases. Let's shift gears quickly before I forget. You guys use infrared equipment, right? I mean, the thermal cameras, right? You said you did use that. Okay. What do you look for on that type of device? What are you looking for?
So with thermal, we look for like heat signatures pretty much. So if you're like human body, it's going to be orangish and like hot. But if it's something that is paranormal, it's usually like black or purple because they're usually cold. So definitely have different heat signatures. I have a video on Facebook because I'm a thermal imager person of the whole tutorial on this. It's pretty much just heat signatures.
So you believe you've captured something anomalous that's got a cold temperature?
Yes.
Okay. The reason why I ask these questions is a lot of people. Before I ask this, let me ask you what type of thermal imager you use.
Seek thermal.
Yeah, seek thermal.
Seek thermal. Okay. I found out kind of long after I started investigating, a few years, that the Seek thermal is only really good for seeing surface temperatures. How it works is it bounces infrared light off of solid physical objects, and it's reflected back into the imager of the device, and that's how you're able to see the temperature. And it works quite like the temp guns that you use, but in a much grander fashion. So I see a lot of people, especially on TV shows and super high-tech paranormal groups, they'll use it to try to catch free-floating temperature anomalies, which is actually impossible for especially a Seek thermal device. And I was wondering if you guys have ever considered that when trying to use that device to capture things.
We actually were at a cemetery one time, and the way the wall was, it was reflecting back our shadow. So we actually realized that, and we took the Seek thermal out and realized that that's not going to work in that certain situation. So in certain situations, we make sure that the area around it is there's nothing reflective, and that it's just a wall, so that it's not going to reflect back and make sure it's not my shadows. Excuse me.
Right.
So we try to rule out.
So do you think that you're going to capture something like an apparition with it? Like, say there's a cold mass. Do you believe that's what you're going to try to capture?
We would like to.
Yeah.
Okay,
We
because
haven't.
right, that I wanted to bring that up, and I have a discussion about it real quick. Is I can't find a physical reason why that the Seek Thermal will see that. Like, I have done tests where, I'll take a can of duster, the compressed air, and I'll spray it in front of the Seek Thermals, and you cannot see that, even though the temperature variance is quite drastic in front of it. But if you spray it on a surface, you definitely see it. And if you put your hand on surfaces, you definitely see that. So what I try to do is talk to people and see if they've had similar, experiences with the device, and you think that the methods and the reasoning behind what they're trying to capture is in question when using that device.
We gotta look further into that then.
Yeah.
Yes, because I'm telling you what, guys, do not feel bad, because there is literally thousands of people out there trying to capture a free-floating temperature anomaly with that device. And I don't think it's possible. I don't think you can do it. I have not found a situation that you can do it, because it's designed to read surface temperature based on how it's designed. So I just wanted to talk about that just briefly. I didn't want to, put you on Front Street about it, but I just wondered if you have ever considered that, or if anybody in your tech department have ever researched a device to that extent.
Yeah, that's good to know. That's going to help us out next time we go out.
Yeah.
A quick pointer before we shift gears quick. What we love to do with that device is, when you have trigger objects or things that you're trying to get it to touch, that is a great scenario to use it, like REM pods, trigger objects, sitting on chairs, pushing open doors. Like, if say the claim is a door opens by itself, and you have a camera on it, and we will put a Seek Thermal on it just to see if we can actually get, a temperature variance in a contact with the door, because that would be insane if you could capture that. So that might be interesting ways you could use the device. But let's shift gears entirely, guys. Let's talk about some of the experience some of your team members has had, and what drives you to try to find evidence of something that seems to be the most difficult thing to find evidence of. We're talking about probably the greatest mystery and questions known to, us as, a culture and as humans. So whoever wants to start first, if they have something crazy that they would like to share that they experienced, by all means, I would love to hear it.
When I was about 10 years ago, when I was about 8, I was living at an old house in Acco, and there was an old lady that lived down the street, about 4 houses down, and she passed away. About a week later, we owned 3 acres, and it was like the size of the football field. It was huge, the backyard, before we got into the woods. And I'm sitting in the kitchen, and you can see the backyard, and I see an old lady. Wasn't sure if it was her, but I seen an old lady walking in my backyard at like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, and I'm just thinking, like, what is she doing? Like, why is there an old lady walking in my backyard? So I went back there. I probably got within about 20, 30 yards, and I said, hey, like, what are you doing? You lost? Like, why are you back here? And she didn't look at me, didn't no answer or nothing. I was just like, okay. So I turned around, walked back to my house. 5 minutes later, I turned around, she was gone. Like, little old lady just disappeared within the 5 minutes from me turning around, getting to my step to walk back in my house. I turned around to look, and she was just not there. So that was like one of the craziest things that's ever happened to me. And when they talked to me about joining the group, I was like, yeah, I'm in. I seen some crazy stuff when I was younger. I want to know if that's real or not. Make sure I'm not seeing anything.
Absolutely. And that's actually reported. A lot of people experienced something very similar.
Yeah, it was crazy. I just couldn't believe it, because I don't know how she could just disappear within like 5 minutes.
Real quick before we get to somebody else, what is your kind of like out there explanation? Kind of like, you seem like you're all pretty much, techie, sciencey type people that like to, speculate and hypothesize. What do you think is occurring there when that happens? They seem solid. They seem like they're actually there, but then they're not. What do you think might be going on?
Like, when I was there, she seemed like a complete person. Like, I could walk up, go give her a hug or touch her. Like, she seemed like she was there. Like, there was no question about it. She was there. She was walking. Like, she had weight, like everything. Like, I could hear like the grass when she was stepping. And that's what kind of like threw me off, because when I turned around and she disappeared, I was like, I didn't hear her run, I didn't hear her move, it was just gone.
Right. So we're not always just talking about one single type of thing, like some type of misty apparition or a shadow figure. Sometimes it's physical. It could be physical. But what I'm kind of getting at, do you think it's possible that there's other dimensions that might be phasing in or coexisting at certain times with our own? Do you think, is that something you try to aim at when you're, researching this sort of thing?
Actually, that's kind of one of my favorite theories about this whole thing, is that, we're witnessing stuff that's happening on a different plane or a different dimension. Personally, I think it's, definitely a possibility. But to really, how exactly can we figure it out if it's on another dimension or another plane?
You can't. String theorists can't even do it.
Exactly.
So that's the conundrum. That's the problem. There's a lot of things out there that we neither have the education or the resources to test or prove, but we're out there, trying to. And the reason why it's still important, even though it seems like a futile, endeavor, that there may be something that comes out of it to help, future, researchers or other people trying to answer the same questions. There might be something to come out of it, to help. And that's why I think it's important. And it seems like you guys probably agree that you log everything, even though you can't prove it, you just put it down and say, hey guys, here it is, peer review it. It may be something useful or not. And I just think that even though we go out there and we try hard and we're really into it, it seems kind of futile. Do you guys ever feel that? Look at you guys.
Well, that's a good question. I mean, I'm out there for a purpose. I'm trying to find something.
Right, because at the end of the day, you're out there for yourselves, but you would love to, provide something for others. But at the end of the day, if you can validify or, validate is a better term, what you experienced before with future experiences, that's what we're all after, I believe. A lot of people like us, we're out there to say, hey, I wasn't crazy. I can replicate that. It can happen again. And that will help validate some things, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. A lot of us out there, we preach the scientific method. We go out there, we go through all these, protocols, and at the end of the day, it's, just like, your advisor over there, he hasn't seen anything solid, and that's the problem. It may be out of our reach for now, but if we just gave up, that wouldn't really reflect our nature as humans and as curious beings. Eventually we'll probably get there if we keep doing the right thing. So what do you guys do as far as not only doing the voice phenomena stuff? Do you guys try to take on, like, say, residential cases and help people? And when you do, like, say, a home, someone calls you up and they have a problem, they think they may be haunted by something, do you find it hard to tell people, like, hey, look, even though you have a strong belief that your house is haunted or whatever, it's not?
So pretty much, we've never really done a residential as a group.
We have.
Besides, well, before this group, we have done his house.
Okay.
Which is right.
No.
One of our former members, we had done his house. I don't remember if we got any feedback or anything from that, but
There was actually during one of the sessions that happened at the house. Off topic. Sorry. We had a painting on the wall, I believe it was, and during the session, it just completely fell down out of the blue. So.
Okay. Well, I guess what I'm trying to ask you is, okay, since you haven't done any residentials, have you gone to a place with an expectation that there may be something there, but there's not something there? Do you guys try to, stay objective? Do you find it hard to be objective, even though, your mind and your soul wants there to be something there? Do you struggle with that at all? The cognitive dissonance of it.
I wouldn't say we struggle with it at all. In fact, we sort of do our best to, rule anything out possible. If it's most likely not paranormal related, and we'll do our best to rule it out. It's not really necessarily a bummer, you could say, if we don't find anything. But at the same time, it just sort of helps us with our entire research.
Right, that's awesome.
I personally haven't had ever a problem doing that, obviously, but I'm gonna jump back real quick to the actual things that have happened. One of the first times I was here, and I don't always go out on the little research projects, and I don't always go out into the field. I usually stay at the board itself. But jumping back to things that's actually happened, there was this one time where we were in the cemetery that was nearby. And what ended up happening was we went out there, we did our little session, and I was sitting down on YouTube, started packing up the stuff, and there was just a weird gut feeling. I was like, and I had a fidget spinner, okay? I know, we're gonna talk about fidget spinners. But I had a fidget spinner, right? And gut feeling just told me, hey, and I'm holding it still, there's no wind. I was like, hey, can you spin this and turn the lights on? And don't you know, it starts spinning and the lights turn on. I was like, oh, okay. I was like, you can have this. And I just kind of put it on the gravestone, and I was like,
Don't take it away from them.
So I'm curious to know, how would you explain that? What would cause that, a natural explanation?
See, that's...
There was no wind that night.
Yeah, there was no wind. And the lights just don't turn on by themselves because we started testing this fidget spinner to see if they would turn on or turn off by itself. We started spinning around, and there was no possible physical or environmental explanation for that.
Yeah.
And that was maybe the only thing I could say, which was some kind of evidence. Because I did ask it, and I said, if he did it, you could keep it. And when it did it, I put it on the gravestone.
Yeah, don't take it away from
I was like, this is yours.
Smart move, maybe. Anybody else with any experiences they would like to share?
Actually, I'd like to share one. Actually, me and Mark had noticed this. When we were at the church in PA, we were outside and I think we were just, having our little break, and me and Mark went back in to get everybody ready, get everyone in the room to talk about, our previous, research project. And then as soon as we get in, the oxygen meter was going off and it was reading 13 something.
Yeah, it went from 21 to 20% and dropped down to 12 to 13% out of nowhere.
Yeah.
As we were walking in, all the equipment was on the table from our little break that we took. We were walking in, and then one of the things started going off. I'm like, what is going crazy? Why is it going off? I walked over, and the oxygen meter was reading 14%.
Yeah.
I'm looking at it, I'm like, we should all be dead right now.
Yeah.
How are we reading 14%? We should not be breathing. We should be dead right now. I don't understand. So I walked outside, and I shut it off, turned it back on, let it recalibrate to the air, and it was fine. I went back in, put it down, started going off again. I'm like, what is going on? Walked back outside again, looked at everything, checked it out, turned it back on, and then it was fine. It was weird because it was 10 minutes of just that was going off the hook. It just made no sense.
Right.
And I was just trying to figure out why it kept dropping to 14% in the middle of the church. Just couldn't roll out why.
Yeah, those are the things that happen that just drive you nuts. You kind of wonder if the equipment's malfunctioning or if something is in fact anomalous happening. I hate that because you're kind of left with that.
Yeah.
You're just left with questions.
Right. But it's also cool, and at the same time, wow, we can't explain that. That's what we're out here for, at the same time.
Yeah.
And that same night, I actually before this happened, I was sitting by myself because everybody had went downstairs, and I was in charge of incident command. And everybody heard something downstairs, so everybody was downstairs except for Mark and me. And I was just sitting there, and the door just shut. So then me and Mark were just looking, and then he was like, "All right, I'm gonna go get Clay." So he went to go get Clay, and once he went to go get Clay, think it was the CO meter that started going off. So we had 2 different meters going off that night.
For clarification, Clay is one of our also adult supervisors.
Actually, no, we had 3. We also did a Geiger counter.
Oh yeah, the
Oh,
guy.
yeah.
Geiger counter, yeah.
It was Geiger counter that went off for me.
Yeah, the Geiger counter kept spiking. Just out of nowhere, it just kept spiking every like 5 to 10 minutes. And it was just weird because we couldn't rule out why it was spiking, why it was doing what it was doing, because we had the oxygen meter go off and then we had that go off. All around the same time when nobody was around, and like it was weird because that whole night we had nothing but audio issues, nothing but camera issues.
Yeah.
Like, the first day we went there, everything was great, everything went
was great.
smooth, and the second day we came back, they were like, all right, let's throw on a show for them, and everything was just going not the way it was supposed to. Like, everything started malfunctioning, things were going off by itself.
Technology doesn't like us.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys ever like try to find, you know, let me rephrase this. Do you guys ever go and read like how much radiation the sun's putting out on any given day? Do you guys track the lunar phase? Do you do stuff like that to kind of maybe correlate or cross-check with when it comes to maybe like Geiger counter hits? Or do you guys see if there's any wireless security systems that would set off a magnetic field detector? Do you guys do any of that at all?
I believe Clay does.
Yeah,
Clay
that.
does most of that, yes.
Okay.
He does do a pretty good amount of research before we start everything.
That's awesome. I do want to ask a question from chat. A guy that watches every show, and he's a pretty big supporter of the show. He wants to know, well, I'll add to his question. Do you guys work with psychics or mediums? Do you have belief in the psychic phenomena? And go.
Ooh.
I personally don't.
No, I
We
can
do
say
not work with them.
Yeah, we've never worked.
I'm surprised.
Historian.
Yeah, I mean,
Yeah, we had a historian.
we had a historian if that counts.
It
No.
wasn't psychic, but
So you all are in agreements that anybody who claims to have such abilities are either frauds or mistaken.
I wouldn't say that they're frauds or mistaken, but we don't necessarily use them to our advantage.
Yeah.
We never really thought to bring in like a psychic or something like that.
As well as it's more of us trying to use the scientific method
And the equipment.
and pretty much anything we have.
We're trying to go off of hard evidence that we find. We don't want to go off of like one of their words, like, oh, like if they say something, oh, this person's here, that person's here. Like, okay, you can just say that. I can just say that. Just say, oh, I'm psychic, yeah, this person's with us.
Right.
But where's the hard evidence to back that up?
and that's the thing. At the end of the day, it's just as believable as the paranormal activity happening. So.
Yeah.
Right. I will throw out there that we do research the psychic phenomena, and if you're interested, I'll tell you how we do it using the scientific method. We do double-blind experiments. We have my mother has proved to me so many times that she has an ability to sense and know things that she should not, and that's pretty much why I do what I do now. So I'll take her into cases with no knowledge where she's going, why she's there, and ask her what she can pick up on. And then I'll bring in other empaths and people who claim such things, double blind, in there, and then I'll document what they pick up on. And then before we even investigate, I will cross-check and see if there's any correlations or anything that line up. And, you know, what you look for is something that's above what's statistically, common as far as coincidence is concerned. So you can use statistics and you can use double-blind experiments. And it's interesting what you find in some cases where you find that people pick up on the same things more frequently than they should. And they don't just guess. They're all hits on either what the clients or the claims are or what the clients report. And, I find that interesting, and there are ways to investigate that. And if you guys are interested in that, you can contact me and I'll kind of help you do that type of research. But I think it might be an important thing to consider, because when people experience paranormal phenomena, it might involve the psychic ability to perceive such things. So try to keep an open mind, but then again, be skeptical.
Yeah, biggest thing.
I'll tell you what, guys. Why don't you tell me what your favorite place is to investigate and why?
Favorite place so far?
Mine would have to be Eglinton Cemetery because that cemetery is huge and there's a lot that goes on in it.
Mine would have to be Edmonton because it has a chair that was made for a grave, and you can sit in it, and it's actually really warm because it soaks up the sun all day. And then when you sit in it at night, it's still warm. So I think it's really awesome.
Yeah, I think my personal, I would say Eglinton too, because that's where I had more, I want to say, feeling myself, like just more of, how do I want to put this? More of like a personal experience with the place. Like I had a lot of weird feelings, a lot of like gut feelings. That a lot of equipment was going crazy. I had a lot of feedback from a lot of the questions and stuff that I was asking, and that place just threw me off. Like when I got there, it was just like I got feeling like, okay, there's something else here besides me.
And this is the cemetery, right?
Yeah, this is in the middle of the cemetery. Yeah.
So what's the deal with the cemetery? What's the claims? Why do people say it's haunted? Why do you think it's haunted?
The cemetery is a very old cemetery, actually. The person that originally owned it, when he passed those in his will, that this cemetery were to stay free to the public, to anyone that wants to, have a grave there. So it's very large and it's constantly growing. There's everyone from, the 2000s all the way down to like mid 1800s. So there's a lot of stuff that we can do, a lot of questions we can ask. It's a really fun place to go and just run around and explore and research.
What was that one thing that there was an older lady in a white
Oh yeah,
dress?
there's also a rumor that goes around about a old lady in a white dress that walks around. I can't say I believe I saw her before. What I saw wasn't necessarily an actual full detailed apparition. It was just more of a basic basically it looked like a woman in a gown, just the shadow of it. Not the actual lady, but the shadow of it.
Cool.
I saw it around. But as soon as it went behind something, it disappeared.
Awesome. I know a lot of people like to debate about cemeteries, and they like to ask the question, why would ghosts, and things that have their own intelligence and can perceive and choose, why would they hang out in the cemetery? Why, and then there's other things like, well, the ethical debate, is it ethical to go to someone's resting place and to do these sort of things? Do you guys ever run into those issues at all?
Well, when we go to these actual places, we make sure we're always respectful. We don't step on any graves for the most part.
Mm-hmm.
We make sure, away from the actual stone, unless it's in the backside of it. Not only that, but in the first question you asked, sometimes if I was to, let's just say, yes, I believe in the paranormal activity and such. The reason I think the actual ghosts would stay around is because a lot of times at funerals they actually put personal belongings within those coffins or whatever, and they bury them with it. And I think that maybe they're attached to that. Maybe they're attached to their personal possessions. Maybe that's why they're around. They're just with their favorite video game, whatever, inside their coffin.
That's a very interesting point I've never heard anybody make reference to.
That's just what I feel. If there was ever a reason to be around there.
Well, it kind of makes sense too because they may be most attached to something. A lot of spirits also take houses or whatever, and maybe that was their most prized possession that they owned.
Right. Makes
That it was
sense.
just something they're buried with.
Right. Yeah, I love that answer, man. A+ on that answer. And I'll add to that. A lot of people go to cemeteries to speak to the deceased in their own fashion. And I'm a strong believer in, speaking to the dead, channeling the dead, they can hear you. There is communication happening, whether we can understand the mechanics of it or not, but people go there for those reasons. And if it's possible to speak to the dead, using some type of supernatural, form of communication or connection process, that in itself can give rise or allow some type of spiritual phenomena to occur. And I love to get into the debates. Why do people do the cemetery as well? Where do you go to talk to the dead? You don't go down the street in the woods, or you don't go in an abandoned building to talk to your Uncle Jack. You go to the cemetery to talk to him, right? So it does make sense, and the archetypal belief of, the afterlife in itself are tied to cemeteries in the first place. So I find it strange to listen to some of the debates about the cemeteries. Plus, you guys, you're trying to find a research field to do work in. So that is highly convenient place to go. And there are haunted cemeteries out there that I've been to. Most of them are abandoned. Some of them, are desecrated, and there's vandalism that occurs, which I believe may, add to a reason why there's, something stirring and something lingering there. And sometimes the urban legends, although they have no basis in fact or reality, are fueled by people's belief. That's a good question. Let's end this show with talking about this. Do you guys have any spiritual beliefs as far as a religion? Do you bring that into your investigation or into your headspace when you go out there? And if you do, how do you try to stay objective, and how do you use those beliefs in the processes that you use to investigate?
Well, me personally, I was baptized a Christian Methodist when I was born by my mom. But as I grew up, I sort of questioned a lot of things, and not recently, for a while, have sort of fallen into a religion that's called Ominism, which is sort of the belief that there's beliefs to every religion, but not every religion is 100% true. So with this, I sort of go in with the mindset that just because some may say it's not true doesn't mean it's not true. So.
Right. Anybody else? How about you over there? Let's hear you. Let's hear your opinion on this.
Come on, oh my god, I'm so nervous.
It's okay. It's okay to be nervous. That means you care.
Yeah, really. Religion based. A lot of people. There's not a lot of people that believe in this, but personally, I do. And I really don't know that much about religion, that much.
Mm-hmm.
But personally, a lot of people I know know about the paranormal and had experiences. So that's like what made me go into it and stuff like that.
You don't want to be missing something. Other people are experiencing something that you would like to understand.
Exactly.
Right. And, I know you guys are young, and death is probably one of the last things you guys think about or obsess about. But you probably do so more than others your age because you're investigating the paranormal, which can involve life after death and dead people. So, I always, I'm specifically interested in what you guys think on a day-to-day basis. I mean, as far as the afterlife, as far as your spirituality, because let's face it, if you research religion, we're hardwired in our brains to have those beliefs, to have coping mechanisms for people dying that we love and care about. Is that have any factor in what you guys do? Would you love to know, even if it's just a personal experience and you have no evidence to back it up, that there is something out there? Have you ever experienced something validating to know that there is something beyond death? And does that impact or influence how you investigate the paranormal? Anybody?
Now, when I go out, I always wonder. I always have thought that when you pass away, your soul roams the earth. And you're pretty much allowed to do whatever you want, wherever you want. Well, what I'm thinking is when we go to the cemeteries and if we do see apparitions or we get feedback through our EVPs or anything like that, then maybe their souls are trapped by something they did in that area. And that's why they can't leave where they're buried. Like they said, they're attached to personal belongings that they're buried with. Now that's one thing that I always keep in mind, that why are they still here when I believe that you can go wherever you want?
Right.
What's the reason that you're still trapped in this cemetery and you haven't moved on to, if there is, the next stage, whatever you would look at it that way.
Yeah,
And then,
go ahead.
sorry. And in sessions, we'll like ask like, you know, why are you still here? Like, can you not leave? Do you feel trapped here? And like questions like that to
Right.
see like where they're coming from.
And have you received any answers to those questions?
We had one.
We've had a couple answers to some questions we've asked. One of them I remember very distinctly because it was the first experience I've ever had with the paranormal group, and it was one of the most memorable because the EVP that we caught on it said sit down, and it was extremely clearer than anything I've ever heard on the EVP. And the thing about it was, during this session, we were already sat down. So.
That was on the chair, correct?
No, that was,
That's what it is.
I remember.
that's actually where I took you, the first time.
You were getting all them
Yeah.
answers and everything else.
It was actually in the Eglinton Cemetery where I went for my first time.
Right.
That's one of the reasons why I love it so much.
Right.
Now there was Miss Mary Pino?
Yeah, when she
Or
left.
something like that. No, not that she laughed. I asked her a question. I was sitting there and I was like, okay, well, I can see your name's Miss Mary Pino. And when I was going over my EVP, as soon as I said that, there was the sound of an older woman in the background saying, I know, like whispering, like saying, I know. When I said, okay, I can see your name's Miss Mary Pino, I got an answer in the background saying, I know. And usually when we're out doing our EVP sessions, if any of us move or we'll make a sound or any of that, we put a note in. Say, like, I move my leg, I'll be like, all right, no, I moved my leg. So when we're listening and we hear it, it's not something like, okay, what is that? It's noted that it's not anything else than.
You marked the audio.
Yeah.
I will, strongly suggest that you guys record video of all of your audio sessions just so you can see the leg bump into the chair or the leaning and creaking or anything like that, because it is extremely helpful. Even though it's a little extra step and more to review, it's super helpful. And I have debunked and just explained so many things by, actually watching the audios, being recorded and watching what's going on in the environment. But enough about that, going back into, the afterlife and personal belief, we go to the cemeteries, and you had an interesting question. Why do people linger? And that's one of the hugest questions we ask. Why do people haunt places? Why do they not go to wherever they are supposed to go? And that's a question I ask every day. There's things and experiences I have had in my life that I know beyond a shadow of doubt that there is such things as hauntings. I believe that deceased people do not want to cross over, they want to linger. And why? If you have a choice in the matter, just think about the choice. If you cross over, you have to let go. Maybe it's your memories. Maybe you have to forget about your children. You have to forget about your family, your friends. Every single physical tie you have to this reality, you must let go of. How easy would that be to do? If you read the book Where Dreams May Come, and Robin Williams did a film in the 90s, I suggest you watch that movie. It's a fantastic story where he lost his children, and then eventually the father died, and the mother would mourn at the graves, and the father would not want to let go and leave the mother behind because of all the death. So he lingered at the cemetery with her. So that would be other reasons why spirits may linger in such places, but they can linger elsewhere. They can be other places at other times. We're not talking about physical things, physical temporal planes and physical spatial planes. We're talking about being maybe multiple places at the same time. If you look into physics and particle physics specifically, there's things called superposition and wave phenomena, where you're looking at electrons. You can't determine the spin and the position of them because we're talking about waveform. So if you're in a superposition or a waveform, you could be at a cemetery, you could be at a house down the road, you can be anywhere you want to at any time in multiple locations. So when you think about all those things, plus the fact that, hey, they may not be able to let go of that antique whatever, or that old 67 Camaro that they love to drive down the road, or their sister that they had so many fond memories, they could be existing and lingering in all those states all at once. Different aspects.
Yeah.
It's a good way to look at it.
Yeah, so when you go out there, always when you ask the question to start off that scientific method, you have to ask a question first, and those questions are very important, along with the procedure and the methods you use and how well you execute them. But those questions is what will get you in the places that you want to go. You get stuck in a rut, you go out to the cemetery, you pop on the recorder, but if you start off with those hardcore questions from the heart, that's when I think you can connect and get a good result, is how you can connect with what you're actually trying to do. So we'll end it there, guys. I love the fact that you guys are doing what you do. You sound like you guys are legit. You guys are an actual group going out there doing great things. You're having fun. You're establishing a very close bond. I'm looking at you guys now, and you guys are very close. You are very good people, and just that alone is a good positive thing in your community, and it's awesome. I love that Clay and all the other advisors and adults that are making this possible and facilitating it. I love having you guys on, and I really appreciate all you contributing to the show and answering the questions and bearing with it. Even though if you were nervous or didn't quite know how to answer the questions, I think you guys did an exceptional job, and you should feel very proud about what you're doing and what you're passionate about.
Thank you very much.
Appreciate it.
Yeah, you're very welcome, and I would love to have you guys back on. I know I book like 3 or 4 months in advance because I'm always worried about running out of guests, but if you guys would like to come back on, maybe in a different format, if not all of you, or if all of you, I would be very open to that. But let's end this with you guys telling everybody watching, which has been a steady 10 to 20 people at a time, how they can find out a bit more about your group, maybe on social media or a website. Let them know where they can, read information or see information about what you guys do.
We have a Facebook page, Post NJ.
Right.
And every time not every time, but usually when we're done, if we get any hard evidence or anything like that, we'll usually put it up on Facebook for everybody to see what we caught or what we captured when we were out in the field. If anything really interesting, we usually put it up on Facebook for everybody else to see. Get out there more, let everybody see what we're doing, how we're doing it, what we're actually coming up with, stuff like that. So I would definitely say that Post NJ on Facebook would be the biggest way to keep in touch and see what we're doing on a daily basis.
Awesome. Yeah, and if you guys ever want to, show something to me, I would love to see it. I'm going to try to follow your page much more closely than I have. As you can imagine, I'm very, very busy, but I do this show to learn from others and to connect with people, and I'm really glad that I did it. But if you have anything that could help me or teach me, I would be very open to it, and that the vice versa as well. I mean, if you ever want to ask my opinion or go through my material on social media or on the internet, by all means do so, because I spend a lot of time trying to teach things I've learned and trying to connect with others just so we can grow the community, get better at what we're doing, and maybe, just maybe, standardize some of these methods, because let's face it, everybody has got their own take and their own, way they investigate, and then maybe if we can get down to standardizing some of this stuff, it might get a little bit better. So I think you guys are on the right track. So if you guys have nothing else that you would like to talk about, I'll wrap this up. Thanks again, and keep doing what you're doing. Merry Christmas and Happy New Year to you all.
Very good.
I totally did not understand that.
There's a whole bunch of noise.
Yeah, we'll translate that. We'll break down the audio and isolate everybody's response. I'm just joking. You guys have a good night. We'll talk to you again soon, okay?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, stand by. All right, guys, there you have it. Paranormal organization of teens. They're awesome, guys. Check them out on Facebook, okay? Let them know that you're keeping an eye on them. Show them support. Go over to their Facebook page, like their Facebook page, comment on their stuff, follow what they do, help support these guys, because if you're going to spend your time supporting something, why not support these folks, right? I mean, there's a lot of people out there that are thrill seekers that, break into places. They're just horrible, and, those people are getting, support and recognized for, whatever they do. So let's try to give Post and Jay all the support we can, okay? I know these comments were blowing up the whole time, and I'm looking over there, and I'm looking at these 7 folks over here, and I'm looking at the comments, and I'm like, there's no way I can do that. So I'm sorry that I did not read every one of the comments, but they're all in the live feed. I'll go back and read them all. Thanks again, guys, for coming in and tuning in every single week. All your support is very much appreciated. If you guys want to private message me in the chat, something concerning the show, by all means do that. But let's wrap up this show. We'll go to the social screen here. If you would like to support what I do here on the show and our research group, you can do so through Patreon. If you go to the link in the description, in the cards, you'll see patreon.com/support interface death. $1 a month would be awesome. It would help support the show, it would help support the research group, and all the film production we do at the locations. So, as you can imagine, that is very expensive and time consuming. So all the support that you would want to give would be awesome. So if you want to follow Necromancer Show on Facebook, the link is there, and Interface Death's Twitter and Instagram links are there as well. So if you want to check us out there, by all means do so. We always shout out our patrons at the end of the show. We got Matt Bitton staying strong, and of course Post NJ's very own Clay Borman. He is a huge supporter of this show and one of the main reasons why these folks are on the show today, and hopefully we'll have them back. So a huge thank you to Matt and Clay for supporting us on Patreon. Stick around, guys. There's some promotional videos at the end of the show. I love you all very much. You're in my thought and heart all the time. Merry Christmas, guys. I hope it was a good one. Have a good new year. Let's fire up those New Year's resolutions, become better people, help out each other, and eliminate all this garbage that we deal with day in and day out. This is Justin Brown signing off. You guys have a good one.
Been associated with the school?
We got the school in March of 2017.